Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about what I believe is the most polite zodiac sign, part 2 of 2. And yes, it does apply and pertain to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Anyway, I'm going to start out talking about Libra. Now, Libra certainly can be a viable candidate to be the most polite of the zodiac signs. Libra is very balanced, they're very refined, often very cultured. They're tactful, diplomatic. They're careful on how they articulate something, even if they're saying something derogatory or derisive about something or somebody. They try to put it in smooth terms. They might ask somebody, "What deodorant do you use?" If somebody is emitting some kind of malodorous emanation, so to speak. I mean, they're just they are more exceptionally careful on how they put things than the average person. Certainly, I mean, there's a reason why they're the opposite or antithesis of the zodiac sign Aries. They often are very well mannered. They don't. Most of them don't barely would know what uncouth is. They are couth in a lot of instances, and very polite, and they're also what they are as well is that they uh, they are the one main drawback. If Libra has any drawback, which might be seen as rudeness, which could be seen as really the opposite of being polite, is that they often are very ambivalent and indecisive. And sometimes what happens is, consequently, if they don't make their decision right away, they keep people on edge and have them on hold, so to speak, for a prolonged period. And some people may be taken aback by that. But there's really not much to really say why they would be considered really rude. So they're definitely a candidate for being the most polite zodiac sign. And I'll tell you at the end of the video whether I think it's them or not. So anyway. Well, as far as Scorpio goes, well, Scorpio, the thing about them is, I mean, they have a very ultra suspicious nature, and the thing about it is, you're probably pondering, well, what is that? What would that have to do with not being polite or being rude? The thing about Scorpio is, this could sometimes, being overly skeptical and cynical can sometimes manifest and translate into rude behavior, because what happens is, if they got somebody new in their life and they're entering their home, Scorpio, being as suspicious as they are, they might start to become fixated with this person and scrutinize their every move. Scorpio has a very penetrating stare and gaze, as many of you may know, and they also will have that gaze fit. They'll be fixated. Their eyes will be fixated on that person often that comes into their home. A new, like, say, if it's a friend of their children or something, and they just that's just how Scorpio is. Because it takes so long to get to know Scorpio. They're often very suspicious right off the bat, so to speak. And sometimes Scorpio will do this to let them know, to kind of express their power in their own way, in their own subtle way, basically. And also, Scorpio's biting and scathing sarcasm doesn't help matters as well, because these um, these words will often hurt people. Scorpio may often resort to this in contrast to physically retaliating in situations. So these are, I mean, so Scorpio, I'd have a hard time saying they would be the most polite zodiac sign. But anyway, another thing what I want to get at is, well, the next sign I want to talk about is Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're very benign and benevolent. Sagittarius has a lot of goodwill and often inspires a lot of hope and positivity in others. They could be the incorrigible optimist. But Sagittarius is often, I mean, known for speaking the veritable truth. The sharp arrows of truth, figuratively speaking. It's a sign of the archer. I mean, they Sagittarius, what they'll do, I mean, they may not mean it maliciously, but sometimes they will say things that could be they're very blunt, and what they say is downright tactless, and their statements could be very bruising to others. They might, right after they say something to somebody that's very outspoken, they might just move forward and forget about it. But some people may not be able to forget about it that easily, and they're also known for Sagittarius could be known for their reckless behavior, their horsing around. You might say, well, what does this have to do with being rudeness, being the opposite of polite? Well, the thing about Sagittarius, the fact they will often do certain things. They might do certain things in your, you're a guest in your home. Uh, it could simply be horsing around, literally, if it's a young person, especially with your, one of your own children. And it might not be, some people might not see this as rude, but it can get very noisy. Sagittarius might be the one running around, running around the house with somebody else playing laser tag or something, if that's possible, because they just have this need there. I mean, Sagittarius often has that need to be physically mobile, but sometimes this could actually hurt other people, and it might be perceived as rudeness. And also, Sagittarius is the jokester of the Zodiac. They might be the Sagittarius of all the zodiac signs would be most inclined to play practical jokes on others, whether it be through a whoopee cushion or the can of worms, or you have one of those old VCRs and you're trying to eject a VHS tape and something else comes out of it. But it's just something with Sagittarius. They don't mean to be rude or anything, but sometimes they will be without really, really realizing it, or thinking what they're doing might be seen as rudeness to others. And they, Sagittarius will be like the person that will go out and, they'll drive with a suspended or revoked license. They'll bring you along with them, and it just they don't always think about the other person and whatever it is they're doing. And the thing is, because that's just how Sagittarius is. They could be very reckless. They might take your money and make an investment into some company that hasn't been researched extensively, and if they lose it, uh, those are things that Sagittarius may do. So anyway, now going to Capricorn. Well, Capricorn, the thing about them is that they could be known for their coldness, their callousness. Thing with Capricorn, which could be seen as rude, to me, it'd be hard for me to say they'd be the most polite zodiac sign, because sadly, I mean, due to the fact of their coldness, they could be the ones that are really where their career in business takes such precedence over so many other things that could even include the feelings of other people. They have a very difficult time expressing sympathy, compassion, or empathy with others. And the thing about them is uh, they might not think that they're overly cold or undemonstrative, but in a lot of instances they are. And the people, especially have a more sensitive sign like Pisces or Cancer, that is left out in the cold, so to speak, can be very hurt by this. And it's really, and it can come across as rudeness to others if they just simply forget, or they're not really thinking about getting somebody something, whether it's a birthday gift or it's a Christmas present or just cold energy in general. There was a boss, a manager I had worked with one time, and it was at a retail store, and he was a Sun in Capricorn, and this was based on what somebody told me. I don't have, the irrefutable evidence on this, but it's based on what was stated to me. It wouldn't surprise me if it was true. And what happened was, there was a gentleman apparently had gotten electrocuted. There was some worker got electrocuted at the retail store, and he was laying on the ground. And the manager had walked over, the Capricorn Sun person, and said, "Well, look, we got to move this guy. We got work to do." I mean, to me, that really epitomizes coldness. And I'm not saying all Capricorns are like that. That's Capricorn energy in a very negative manifestation, in a really strong negative expression. But the point is, Capricorns of all the zodiac signs might be the coldest, and it's hard, and sometimes people can see this as rudeness, and that's why it'd be hard for me to say that Capricorn is the most polite zodiac sign. Now, going to Aquarius. Well, the thing about Aquarius is they could be a candidate for the most polite zodiac sign, but the thing about Aquarius is that they are very outlandish and unpredictable, very spontaneous. Some people might not see this as being very polite. I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine, I've stated this in some previous videos, had Aquarius Ascendant. And one time he was just driving me around. We were going to go to the store, some shopping center, and he just abruptly, he instead of taking the conventional route and going through the driveway uh, to get entrance to get into the store parking lot, he went up the grass hill and with me in it. And some people might see this doing things like that. Shocking behavior can be seen as rudeness. It's like Aquarius would be the one of all the zodiac signs to bring an ozone machine into a business that smelled terribly, because they Aquarius is very non-conforming. They're not thinking about, well, what's orthodox, what's considered normal, what's conventional. They want to do what they feel they need to do at that time, and it's generally not malicious, but that is just how Aquarius will often operate. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, so it's just something that is how Aquarius, that's their modus operandi, so to speak. And they are, but at the same time, we understand. I mean, Aquarius is um, very considerate. They're ones not to do. I mean, they're not ones to be overly rude or anything. They're the ones that often, like, if you're staying, they're a roommate or something. They could be the prototypical roommate, because they could be the ones, and because they can be very considerate. That will walk around quietly, not make, not be overly loud and boisterous, unlike Leo. And thing about it is, though, because their spontaneity, they might bring somebody, and say, well, we're going to do some bungee cord jumping, and just kind of say do something very spontaneously. And if you're kind of an apprehensive type, that might not be something for you. Or we're going into a simulated American Gladiators type obstacle course, and if you're not in best shape, you may not want to do it. They'll just spring things on you very unexpectedly, and sometimes that'll be seen as rudeness. But I want to go, last but not least, I want to go to Pisces. Well, Pisces, the thing about them is they often have, Pisces is very well meaning. They're often very altruistic, very benevolent people, but they do have the propensity to drugs and alcohol more so than the other zodiac signs on average, because they are ruled by Neptune. They're ruled by Jupiter as well, but I think sometimes when I look at that, I think the way that manifests is that might actually enlarge the drug use with Pisces, the combination of having Jupiter and Neptune as their rulers. But anyway, what happens with Pisces, despite being very passive and meek and very mellow in many instances, well-meaning, the thing is, they're the sign associated with drugs and alcohol, and I think when Pisces is under that influence, it's like they can become that totally different person. I understand that could be true with any zodiac sign, but I think Pisces even more so. Remember, Pisces is the symbol. Pisces is the fish going in opposite directions. They're a lot like Gemini. They're very, I mean, Pisces and Gemini, I would say, are the most dual zodiac signs. I understand the mutable signs are considered dual signs, which would include Sagittarius and Virgo. But Pisces and Gemini are the ones of the mutable signs I think are the most erratic, and they're the ones that are the most dual, you could say, as far as vacillating, going from one end to another, one kind of person to another. But anyway, and Pisces too, you have to remember that even when they are often very polite in their manner, because they have just such a kind, benevolent expression. Pisces, sadly, because they're so impressionable, they have the tendency to mimic others' behavior, and that could even include rude, insolent behaviors. So, for those reasons, it's hard for me to say that Pisces would be the most polite of the zodiac signs. And remember that Pisces, at least in theory, and I concur with this, I subscribe to it. Some people may not agree, some others may agree, that Pisces is the amalgamation. I mean, they're of the previous 11 zodiac signs, so they have a little bit of all those other signs as well, including the signs that have some rudeness in them, and which is almost all of them anyway. So I mean, which I mean, everywhere it is all of them, because all zodiac signs have that tendency, and it's just on different levels. But anyway, The sign I think is the most polite of the zodiac signs. No shocker here is going to be the zodiac sign Libra, because Libra is very, I mean, they are very well mannered, and going back to what I stated before about them, articulating things very carefully, they are about their peace, and because they are so they are ones that are, they epitomize tact and diplomacy, because they are the opposite antithesis of the zodiac sign Aries, and because they have that need for peace, they have that need for fairness, they want to be treated more so than the other zodiac signs. Because of that need for fairness, they expect more to be treated how they treat others, and they feel, well, because of this fairness, because they're so equitable and fair-minded, that they could they're going to treat others respectfully and be respectful in how they present things, they in how they act, their behavior, but they expect the same in return. They're often very well refined, and they have very good manners in many instances. They're not ones to come, because also too, they want to even be, they're not what you would call disheveled people. Libra is often very neat and very clean how they present themselves. They're not ones to, release those malodorous emanations, so to speak. They are very refined, and they're very cultured in many instances. So I would say, for me, they are the most polite zodiac sign. I believe that's just my opinion though. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.